Hello everyone. In this video I shall discuss functions in C. It's a basic tutorial. So let's begin with stdio.h hash include stdio.h. Please note that I'm not using my laptop's keyboard. I'm using a USB keyboard and it makes some noise, so bear with me. Now if you don't know what a function is, well, unknowingly you have already used function. Whenever you define main, such as int main, whenever you define main, this is this is an example of function. Yes, main is a function by itself. When you type return 0 at the end of int main, it means that this function is returning something. So main is also a function and you have been using main. Okay, now let's print something here. Printf, this is a function, and we run the program using F5. No, not F5. What is it? F9, sorry. Run the program by pressing F9 and it shows us, it prints this is a function. So main, it's by itself is a function. Okay, now how to, okay, now what is a function of, let me take a reference from a site. It is tutorials.com, and it says a function is a group of statements that together perform a task. But how I define function is like a block of code. You don't bother what the code is. Once you have written the code, that is, you don't bother what the code is, but you just call the function or you implement the code and it does some work. It is like a black box. I like treating it like a black box. This is how I define function. You don't bother what is the logic, what is the code. You just call the function and it does its job. So um, okay, it's recording. So how do you define a function in C? Well, in C we define a function in this way. We first write the data type of the function. Every function must return some value. The functions which does not return a value has the data type of void. So you can also write void main. But unfortunately in code blocks, okay, I'm using code blocks here. Unfortunately in code blocks void main is not allowed. That's why I have written int main. Anyways, first is data type, then function name, then a bracket opens, and in this there will be the parameter list. For example, int parameter 1 comma, let's say float parameter 2 comma, let's say char parameter 3 comma char parameter 4. So as you can see, even you can even pass arrays in function as parameter. So here will be the parameter list followed by a semicolon. Well, this line tells the C compiler that there is going to be a function with the name function name. Here you can give your own custom names of data type, whatever data type it is. The data type may be int, it may be float, it may be char, it may be anything. If it would not return anything, then its data type would be void. So in this way you have to define the data type of the function, then the function name, and then the parameter list. Well, a function returns only one value. A function can return only one value. A function can have only one return statement. Well, this is not true. A function can have more than one return statement, but only one of them would get executed. As soon as a return statement is executed, the function, the control would be taken out of the function. Any code that follows the return statement would not be executed. Once the return statement is executed, the control will move out of the function. So function only returns one value, but a void function, it may not return any value. It's not may not, it would not return any value. Void function would not return any value. So let's construct a void function. Void print me. That's it. So print me is the function name, and the data type that it would return value is void, and it would not accept any parameters. So it may accept a parameter, it may not accept a parameter. In my example, print me, it will not accept any parameter. So this line tells the compiler that okay, there is going to be a function named print me. It just gives head on. It just tells the compiler, okay, there's going to be a function like this, so look for it, something like that. Now is the actual code to define the function. So it's like this: void print me, bracket open, bracket close, followed by braces. It's just like main function. As you can see, data type, function name, bracket open, bracket close, bracket open, bracket close, then parenthesis, within this parenthesis the body of the function would lie. So what would print me do? Print me would just print a line, printf, having new line characters here, and this would say I am a video of code words. So this line would be executed from print me function. So we have defined a function named print me. Now we must execute the function. We must learn how to execute a function. We have written a function, now we must learn how to execute a function. Well, to execute a function we must type the function name. In this case it's print me followed by bracket open, bracket close, and semicolon. Since it's a void function, it would not return any value. Just call it just typing print me bracket open bracket close semicolon to execute the function. Let's see what I mean. Press F9 to run this code and it runs. As you can see, it says this is a function. This is from the main, the printf here, the main function printf, and after that I have called print me, and the controller moves to here void print me and executes this line, and it says I am a video of code works. Okay, now this is how we call a void function. Now let me give you an example of integer function. By integer function I mean a function whose data type, whose return type is an integer. So let's check. Let's say int factorial. Now, what does a factorial function do? A factorial function will return the factorial of a number. Now what is the factorial of 5? Factorial of 5 is 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Similarly, factorial of 6 is 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So in factorial would return the factorial of a number. So what I am saying, factorial would return the factorial of a number. So this number has to be given to this function, and so factorial would accept a number. So that's a parameter. So let's define the parameter here. Let's say it's n. So int n. Now let's find the factorial. Well, in a function you can define variables. In every function you can define a variable, but if a variable is defined in main function, that cannot be used in factorial function. If a function is defined, if a variable is defined in the main function, suppose int y, let's say int y equal to 9. I have defined y in the main function and it is assigned to 9. 9 is assigned to y. This y is not available in factorial function, it will never be available. Why? Because of scope resolution. This braces, whatever is defined or declared within this braces is only available within this braces, do not be available outside this braces. This is known as scope. But within every brace we can define our own variables. So in factorial function we can define our own variable. Suppose int I. Now for I equal to 1, I is less than equal to n, I plus plus. Now I need sum also. So sum equal to 0, sum equal to 1 actually, not 0. Sum into equal to means sum equal to sum into I. This would compute my factorial. Now I have my factorial inside, so the factorial is stored in some variable. Now I must return this value. This function is data type int, so and sum is also data type int, so I must return this value. So return sum. How will I know this correct? Because sum is of type integer and this factorial function, it returns data of type integer, so it is correct. So this factorial means the syntax is correct till now. The factorial function will return some value. So from a fact, let's see. Now this factorial function returns a value, so we must declare a variable that will store this return value. So fact equal to factorial of, let's say, 4. So this variable fact, which I have defined here, fact is storing the value that is returned by a factorial function. So in this way we can store the values that are returned by a function, and we can pass parameters in this way. Now let's print this. Printf /n because of boolean character, %d, then fact. Press F9. Oops, there's some error, I guess. F2, F9 was the error. Express semicolon, obviously I missed a semicolon. Now, as you can see, this is a function. This is the line here in the main function. Then I'm a video of code work. This is the print me function. This fact is storing the factorial of 4, and then it's printing fact, so it's printing 24. Now why are we using functions? We are using functions because we can automate this process. The code for finding factorial, we can automate this. Suppose the factorial function is getting used in main. What if I want to use this factorial function elsewhere? Suppose outside main, suppose in the print me function, I can easily do that. Now I can easily do that. But without function, without repetitively calling code that is already created, we cannot achieve this effect. So functions, so this is where functions come to our help. Once we define this block of code, we can use it anywhere in our program now. Well, I don't know if you know or not, this stdio.h, this is a library. Some functions are defined here as well, and we are using those functions. Printf is also a function. We are using these functions. So this concept of repetitively calling a piece of code, this thing, this effect is achieved by functions. This is where functions are of great help. Now let's make another function to demonstrate more than one variable, more than one parameter. So let's say in sum of 3 variables. Let's say int a, comma, int b, comma, int c. Now I will return the sum. So return a plus b plus c. So in this example, as you can see, we are taking 3 different parameters. Now I will try to print a statement after this return, and I will show you that it will never get executed, because once return is encountered, the control will move away from the function. Leave aside if there were even 100 lines of code after the return statement. So let's print some dummy value. Printf this line will never get executed. Now let's call this values. Oops, I've written some twice, I guess. Sum of 3 variables. Copy this and let's say comma sum. Now let's save this value in sum. Now three variables are 1, 2 and 3. Printf /n %d comma sum. So this would print the value of sum. As you can see, yet again the sum of three variables returns a returns a returns a number. Oops. Sorry for this. Sum of three variables returns a number, and this number is getting stored in this variable named sum, and we can use it anywhere in our code now. Rest of 9. As you can see, 24 is printed, then 6 is printed, and this line never got executed indeed. So after return statement is encountered, the controller will move away from this function and the statement will never be executed. Now let's move on to something bit more complex. Well, okay, let me give you another information. You may skip this definition if you are sure that this function is defined before any function that uses it. If you are confident of that, then you can eliminate this declaration, but I won't, because it's good, it's safe, it's a safe practice. So in factorial here, and this, copy this and paste it here. Fine. Now let me move on to something a bit more complex. Well, there are actually two types of arguments. One is formal parameter and the second is actual parameter. Now what actually happens when I call the factorial function is, suppose instead of giving 4 here, let me say n equal to 4, means a number that's equal to 4. I'm passing n here. Now suppose the factorial function executes a statement like this, n equal to 0. The n here, it's initializing 0 to it, so n equal to 0. So when I execute this function, the main function, and I pass n here, n is 4. So you may be thinking that n will become 0 now, so after this line executes, the value of n is 0, but it is not true. What actually happens is, whenever you pass a variable here, instead of using this variable, it makes a copy of this variable, and this copy is sent to the function. So this n is not actually this n, it's a copy of this n, and all the modification and edits that happen are actually executed on the copy of n and not the original n. So the original n remains intact and the copy is assigned to 0, so original n is left unharmed. So this is formal parameter. And what is actual parameter? The actual parameter is when the function will actually modify the original value. So how to accomplish that? Well, it's pretty simple. If instead of passing the variable, if we try to pass the address of the variable, I mean pointer, if we pass the address of a variable, then the work will be done on the address of the variable. And since work is done on the address of a variable, so any modifications that take place inside the function would indeed affect the actual variable. Means if I pass the address of n and the function works on this address and it initializes 0 to it, then my original n here will indeed get affected. It would be 0 then. This is known as actual parameter. I'm not going to show you actual parameter here because I need to actually explain pointers for that, and that would make me deviate from my current topic. I suggest you to search this topic elsewhere in books or in internet. Let me move on to the next topic that's in my mind. There's another name given to a type of functions, a class of functions, and the name is recursive function. So what is recursive function? A recursive function is a function that calls itself over and over again. So recursive function is a function that calls itself over and over again. A function calling itself. What do I mean by calling? Calling means writing this line, print me, semicolon. What does this mean? This means I want the function to be executed here. So print me, bracket and close semicolon. This is known as calling a function. So if a function calls itself again and again, it's known as a recursive function. Let me give an example of recursive function. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a recursive function of factorial. So int fact rec recursive int n. Well, mastering recursive function requires a bit practice. It's not something that I can give to you as a concept. The idea I can give to you as a concept, but how you will achieve that, you must use your own wits actually. This I cannot teach you. So this is how I make a recursive function of factorial. I will try to explain my code so that you can understand. So if n equal to 1, then return 1. Else means if n is not equal to 1, return n into fact rec of n minus 1. Done. This is all the code that I need to find the factorial of our function. If n equal to 1 or n equal to 0, then we don't want. Okay, what does this do? Well, if I pass something like fact rec of, let's say, 4, what this would do is, means if I execute this line in the main function, what this would do is it would go to the fact rec function here. You go here and check if n is 1. Is it 1? Is 4 equal to 1? No. or n equal to 0. Is 4 equal to 0? No. It will not execute this line. It will go to the next line. Else, else return, sorry, else return n into factor in n into fact rec of n minus 1. But this would do, it would return n. What is n current? Is 4. So return 4 into fact rec of 4 minus 1, that's 3. So it would execute fact rec of 3. So is 3 equal to 1? No. Is 3 equal to 0? No. So this will not be executed. It will execute this line, return 3 into fact rec of 2. So it's returning 4 into something, and then something is 3 into fact rec of 2. Is 2 equal to 1? No. Is 2 equal to 0? No. So it will return something like 2 into fact rec of 1. So it returns 2 into fact rec of 1. Is 1 equal to 1? Yes. So it will return 1 and execute out of the innermost function. So after executing 1, what this is the actually the final return statement, right? 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So this is the working of a recursive function. I'm going to turn on my internet connection, and I'm going to see if I can come across any good example of a recursive function. Anyways, let's see. Recursive function in C. Actually, they just not this. You can search this in the internet actually, but this is all that I think there is to discuss about functions. The recursive function, formal parameter, actual parameter, and all this. I suggest you to try a few problems here and there, and if you face any doubt, leave a comment in the comment section, and we shall try to solve it. If I'm not able to solve, then someone else may be able to solve this. So this is all for this video. Thank you.